Hi, Chad Barker, your Sudoku professor, back again with a fourth video in this series of videos I'm doing on Sudoku Puzzle book reviews. In this particular review, I'm going to review two books again. These are two books in a series of the martial arts Sudoku. These are called Black Belt Sudoku. I have second degree and third degree Black Belt Sudoku here. Now, in this, I'm going to talk about how difficult these puzzles are. I'm going to talk about how they rate, and because these are harder puzzles, but I'm going to relate those to the lessons that I teach and how they fall within those lessons. And I'm going to review overall how these puzzles, how the puzzles are, and what kind of quality they are as well. Okay, so these books, like I said, these two books are part of the martial arts Sudoku books. These are the black belt level. They have, and I'm looking at the back of the book here, they have white belt, green belt, brown belt, and black belt. And if you're into martial arts, I'm sure you know that that's not all the colors of belts that are typically can be earned in martial arts. But basically, white belt would be easy puzzles. The green belt would be kind of medium. Brown belt would be hard, and then the black belt would be very hard, or at least that's how you would think it. So, but this is second degree and third degree, and I'm not convinced that these are necessarily like the third degree is harder than the second degree. I think they just took that as, in my opinion, they labeled these second degree because this is like the second book. There's probably like a first degree, or it has no. It's just black belt Sudoku. It doesn't say that it's first degree or anything. So there was another book. Then they came out with a second edition that they called second degree, and then another whole set of puzzles that they call third degree. So that's how I think they've done that. These are really good quality puzzles. They're not quite as fun and interesting, at least from a starting point of view, as the Nikolai puzzles, but they're still good quality puzzles. Now, I completed most of the puzzles in this third degree black belt, actually before I started the ones in the second degree black belt. And so I'm actually they're probably, again, about equal, but since I've actually recently completed most of the puzzles in this second degree, I'm going to talk more about how I would rate these puzzles, because as far as, what level they would be and how many of them are at what level. When I first started this book, the second degree, I'd done about a third of the book. There's 300 puzzles in the book, and I'd done about 100 of the puzzles. And as is normal, I start off at the beginning of the book and I try a bunch of those, and then I go to the end of the book and work my way backwards, typically back toward the middle. What I found out initially, when I was kind of interesting, because when I was doing the puzzles, I have a graduate level technique. So I have undergraduate lessons, and then I have graduate lessons. So my undergraduate lessons teach techniques that are fairly simple, easy to understand, and then I have these graduate level techniques that you need to solve really, really hard puzzles. Okay, so when I first started out, I would say that of the first about 100 that I did, I'd say 70% of them, so 70 of the puzzles that I did, required one particular graduate level technique. So they were pretty hard, and they required a higher level technique that I call a potential deadlock technique. It's actually a pretty simple technique to understand, but it requires a little bit more thought, and that's why it's up here in the graduate level. This potential deadlock technique it was the technique that was necessary to solve about 70% of them. After that, I'd say about 25% of those, the remaining 30%, so 25% of the puzzles were required below graduate level. So they only required about, like my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior level at most techniques to be able to solve. So they weren't quite as hard. And then about 5% of them required what I consider to be what I call my conflict and coalesce technique, which is my highest, most difficult technique I use. And so 5% of them are really, really hard, I'd call it. 70% of them were the potential deadlock, a little bit easier, but still pretty hard. And then the remaining 25% of them, like I said, were kind of undergraduate. So that's how things were after about the first 100. But then as I started moving myself toward the middle of the book, from, I finished some at the beginning, finished some at the end, and I started moving myself toward the middle of the book, the percentages changed quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I found a whole lot more puzzles in this book, especially the second degree book, were of the undergraduate level. So not even reaching into so even though this is like black belt, it's supposed to be really, really hard, probably more like 45% of the puzzles were below that graduate level. So, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior level techniques that you need to solve. Then about 50% of them were this potential, you could just use this one technique, this potential deadlock technique that I teach to solve them. And then about 5%, still about 5% were required that conflict and coalesce, that really high level technique that I teach. Anyway, so I just want to kind of relate that. These can be difficult. This one probably was a little bit harder. Again, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I solved these puzzles. But this one seemed to be a bit harder, require a little bit more thought. So maybe more of these puzzles require that conflict and coalesce technique that I teach. But not sure. So anyway, we've got second degree black belt Sudoku and third degree black belt Sudoku by Frank Longo, part of the martial arts Sudoku series. I'm sure that any book that you buy in this martial arts Sudoku series by Frank Longo, because I think there's some others that are produced that are not by Frank Longo, but if they're by Frank Longo, you're going to find that they're really good, high-quality puzzles. These books retail for $7.95 here in the United States. They're published by Puzzle Right Press, and you can buy them on Amazon or at any local bookstore. If you'd like to know more about the lessons that I teach, how I teach, you can go down below. There's a link down below in the information section that you can learn about how I teach. You can sign up for some free lessons. I've got a slew of free lessons that I give you. You got to just sign up and you'll start getting them. And then that'll actually enable you to find out more about the other lessons, all the undergraduate lessons as well as the graduate lessons that I have available. So check that out as well, and continue to look for other videos that I have in this series on puzzles and puzzle books, as well as other information that I have on other types of techniques and things to think about and work on when you're trying to do and solve those Sudoku puzzles.